Listen carefully. This is not inspiration. This is orientation. The world you live in does not reward good intentions, pure hearts, or moral hope. It rewards those who understand how power actually moves quietly, predictably, and without mercy. You don't rise because you deserve it. You rise because you position yourself correctly, because you see before others see, because you decide before others react. This is not about becoming cruel. It's about refusing to remain naive in a system that feeds on the unaware. Most people are taught to live by feeling. They react. They explain. They chase approval and call it connection. But power begins where emotion ends. The moment your decisions are ruled by anger, fear, guilt, or the need to be liked, you hand your leverage to someone else. Emotion is not weakness by itself. Uncontrolled emotion is. It clouds judgment, shortens vision, and exposes patterns. And patterns are how people are controlled. Think of the mind like a battlefield covered in fog. The emotional man charges forward, loud and blind, convinced that passion will protect him. The strategist stands still, watching the fog itself. He studies movement, timing, intention. He doesn't rush to act. He waits for clarity. And because of that, when he moves, the outcome is already decided. Calm is not passivity. Calm is surveillance. From this moment forward, you are not here to react like the rest. You are here to operate above the chaos, to detach from the noise long enough to see the machinery underneath it. This is not about suppressing feeling. It's about mastering it. The cold mind is not empty. It is focused. It does not panic under pressure because pressure is information. It does not flare when provoked because provocation is a signal, not a threat. Imagine a chessboard where every piece is emotional except one. That one piece doesn't rush. It doesn't celebrate. It doesn't fear loss. It simply moves with precision. Over time, the emotional pieces eliminate themselves. They overextend. They expose. They collapse. The calm piece remains, not because it was stronger, but because it was patient. Most people confuse kindness with vulnerability. They think silence is weakness and reaction is strength. But the truth is reversed. Silence is where leverage accumulates. Reaction is where leverage leaks. Every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, you reveal your need. Every time you rush to defend your image, you expose insecurity. And insecurity is louder than any insult. The strategist understands this. The world is not fair, not moral, not sentimental. It is transactional. People move toward advantage and away from cost. They follow what feels stable, confident, and inevitable. That's why emotional volatility repels respect, while emotional discipline attracts it. Not because people admire restraint, but because they cannot predict it, and what cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. Picture two men in a crisis. One raises his voice, gestures wildly, demands agreement. The other lowers his voice, asks fewer questions, listens more than he speaks. Which one feels dangerous? Not the loud one. The loud one is transparent. The quiet one forces others to fill in the gaps with their own fear and assumptions. Mystery does more work than aggression ever could. This is where most people fail. They live for validation. They want to be seen as good, fair, reasonable. But power does not come from being understood. It comes from being respected. And respect is born from consistency, restraint, and clarity of purpose. The strategist does not seek to be liked. He seeks to be effective. Approval is fleeting. Control is durable. Detachment is not indifference. It is perspective. When you detach from outcomes, from praise, from immediate emotional reward, you gain freedom of movement. You can walk away without flinching. You can wait without desperation. You can observe without needing to intervene. And this is where authority begins. Because the man who needs nothing from the moment controls the moment. Think of fire contained within steel. Wildfire destroys itself. Contained fire forges weapons. Your emotions are the fire. Discipline is the container. Without discipline, you burn bridges, reveal intent, and lose position. With discipline, your emotions become fuel directed outward when useful, withheld when not. This is the foundation. Cold rationality, not coldness of heart, but coldness of execution. You don't deny what you feel. You command it. You don't act because you feel. You act because it serves the long game. Every move measured, every word deliberate, every silence intentional. From here on, you are not here to be liked. You are here to be unreadable, to let others guess while you calculate, to let others rush while you wait. Because the first law of power is simple. The man who controls himself cannot be controlled by others. Let that settle. Let it rewire how you see every interaction, every conflict, every moment of pressure. Calm is not weakness. Calm is a weapon. And once you learn to wield it, the game begins to tilt in your favor. Once you master your internal calm, the next layer reveals itself. Perception. Power is rarely about what is true. It is about what is believed. Reality bends toward the narrative that feels most stable, most confident, most controlled. This is why so many intelligent people remain invisible while less capable ones rise. They mistake truth for influence. The strategist never does. Perception is power wearing a disguise. It moves silently, shaping outcomes before resistance even forms. Most people speak to express themselves. The strategist speaks to position himself. Words are not confessions. They are instruments. Tone, timing, restraint. These decide how others interpret your presence long before they assess your competence. Think about this. People don't follow the smartest voice in the room. They follow the one that sounds certain. Certainty calms fear, and fear, not logic, governs human behavior. This is why hesitation is punished and ambiguity, when controlled, becomes dominance. The strategist learns to appear solid even while adjusting internally. He adapts without advertising the shift. This is where masks become necessary, not masks of deception, but masks of function. You are not one thing in all situations. You are precise, stoic under challenge, approachable when observed, ruthless when crossed, neutral when gathering information. The mistake most people make is revealing their full personality too early. They show all their cards and then wonder why others know how to play them. Ambiguity is armor. When people cannot fully read you, they project their own assumptions onto you. And most assumptions are shaped by fear and desire, not clarity. Let them guess. Let them fill the silence. The more you explain yourself, the smaller you become. The less you reveal, the more space you occupy. Manipulation is often misunderstood as lying. It isn't. It is the discipline of directing attention. You don't need to fabricate reality. You only need to emphasize what serves your outcome and withhold what doesn't. Every leader, every empire, every institution that has ever endured understood this. People don't experience truth directly. They experience interpretation. Imagine a stage lit by a single spotlight. Whatever stands in that light becomes the story. Everything outside it fades, even if it matters more. The strategist controls the light. He decides what is visible and what remains in shadow, not out of malice, but out of necessity. Because in a world that judges by appearance, those who ignore perception are ruled by it. This does not mean chasing approval. Approval is unstable. It shifts with mood and crowd psychology. The strategist designs outcomes instead. He understands leverage. Allies are useful, but leverage keeps alliances honest. Trust is valuable, but dependence is fatal. You make connections without surrendering position. You cooperate without giving up control. Notice how powerful figures rarely reveal strong emotion publicly. Not because they feel nothing, but because emotion leaks information. Anger reveals limits. Excitement reveals desire. Defensiveness reveals insecurity. The strategist keeps his internal state private. What people cannot see, they cannot exploit. Words, when used properly, cut through confusion. Not many words. Exact words. A question instead of a statement. A pause instead of a rebuttal. Silence instead of justification. These are not passive choices. They are calculated. Silence forces others to speak, and when others speak, they reveal motive. The weak rush to clarify. The strong allow misunderstanding to work in their favor. This is counterintuitive, but true. When people believe they understand you, they stop paying attention. When they don't, they watch closely. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Never give it freely to those who have not earned access. There is discipline here. Manipulation without discipline becomes chaos. The goal is not to deceive for ego. The goal is to guide outcomes with precision. You are not playing the game emotionally. You are designing the game structurally. Others react within it while you adjust the rules quietly. Consider this metaphor. Most people play cards face up, hoping honesty will protect them. The strategist plays with cards face down, not to cheat, but to prevent exploitation. He knows that once others see your hand, they calculate against you. Mystery keeps the odds in your favor. This is why perception often outweighs truth. When people perceive calm, they submit. When they sense confidence, they follow. You never need to demand respect if your presence already signals control. Respect arrives when resistance feels pointless. But remember the balance. This is not about being loved or feared alone. Love without fear invites disrespect. Fear without warmth invites rebellion. The strategist calibrates both. He appears approachable but not accessible, confident but not reactive, present but not predictable. Once you understand this, something shifts. You stop over-explaining. You stop broadcasting intention. You stop performing sincerity. Instead, you move with quiet authority, and people feel it. They may not articulate it, but they adjust around you. Their tone changes. Their posture shifts. Their behavior becomes cautious. That is perception working in your favor. You are no longer asking to be respected. You are engineering an environment where respect is the most rational response. Once perception is under your control, the next force enters the structure of power. Fear, not panic, not violence. Fear as presence. Fear as gravity. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, doesn't explain. The kind that makes people measure their words before speaking to you. Fear is the oldest language of respect, and when disciplined, it becomes invisible authority. Most people misunderstand fear because they associate it with cruelty or rage. But rage is sloppy. Rage is emotional leakage. The strategist does not intimidate through noise. He unsettles through certainty. When someone knows you cannot be provoked, cannot be rushed, cannot be emotionally cornered, they instinctively adjust. Calm dominance disturbs people more deeply than aggression ever could. Think about it. An angry man is predictable. You know where his limits are. You know how to trigger him. But the man who remains still while others escalate, that man becomes unreadable. And unreadable men are dangerous, not because they act violently, but because no one knows where the line truly is. Fear, when used correctly, is not built through cruelty. It is built through restraint, through mystery, through the quiet understanding that you do not need to prove anything. A leader who loses composure loses authority instantly. The moment emotion spills outward, the mask cracks, and others see where they can apply pressure. This is why stillness is so powerful. Stillness creates asymmetry. While others move emotionally, you remain grounded. While they react, you observe. While they expose themselves, you collect information. Fear grows not from what you do, but from what you might do, and uncertainty fills in the rest. Imagine entering a room where someone sits silently, observing, speaking only when necessary. No need to assert dominance, no need to announce status. Yet the energy shifts, conversations lower, people become more careful. That is presence. Presence is fear refined into control. Mystery feeds this effect. When people don't know your limits, they assume the worst, and that assumption becomes your shield. The strategist never overexposes capability. He lets others underestimate or overestimate at their own risk. He knows that clarity helps enemies prepare. Ambiguity forces hesitation, and hesitation is leverage. This is why isolation becomes essential. Not loneliness, strategic distance. The world trains people to seek constant connection, validation, noise. But power regenerates in silence. Isolation sharpens perception. It removes emotional contamination. When you step away, you stop absorbing other people's chaos and start hearing your own thinking again. Isolation also filters relationships. When you are no longer constantly available, you see who values your presence and who only valued your accessibility. The strategist is not afraid of this. He understands that dependency is weakness disguised as loyalty. True alliances are chosen, not clung to. Think of isolation as a forge. In solitude, distractions melt away. Excuses evaporate. You are left with raw potential and brutal honesty. Weakness screams. Strength whispers. Most people avoid this space because it exposes them. The strategist seeks it because it refines him. This is where fear becomes internalized, not fear of others, but fear of losing discipline, fear of becoming reactive again, fear of slipping back into emotional noise. That fear keeps the edge sharp. Now comes detachment. Detachment is not coldness, it is freedom. The detached man cannot be manipulated because nothing external controls his internal state. Praise doesn't inflate him. Insults don't destabilize him. Loss doesn't shatter him. He remains centered, adjusting without attachment to outcome. Attachment is the root of vulnerability. The more you need something approval, validation, control, recognition, the easier you are to move. Detachment cuts those strings. It allows you to walk away without hesitation. And the man who can walk away holds power over those who cannot. Picture yourself as a mirror. Others project their desires, insecurities, expectations onto you. You reflect nothing back. You remain still, unmoved. This unsettles people because they cannot hook into you emotionally. They don't know how to pull you closer or push you away. Control dissolves. Detachment also reverses pursuit. The less you chase, the more others seek. The less you explain, the more they try to understand. The less you react, the more weight your eventual response carries. This is not manipulation for vanity. It is positioning. You are no longer trying to win every interaction. You are designing a long-term posture, one where your presence feels earned, where access feels conditional, where your attention feels valuable. Indifference, when disciplined, becomes supremacy over impulse. You are not numb. You are contained. You feel fully, but privately. Emotions become tools, not masters. Warmth when it builds loyalty. Distance when it preserves authority. Silence when it creates pressure. Think of a fortress. Strong walls do not chase enemies. They endure. They wait. They decide when the gates open and when they remain sealed. Detachment is that wall. Once inside it, insults bounce off. Rejection loses sting. Betrayal becomes data. And this is the paradox. The more detached you become, the more others crave your attention. Because scarcity creates value, and value commands respect. At this stage, fear, isolation, and detachment converge into something deeper. Presence that does not need reinforcement. You are not loud. You are not aggressive. You are inevitable. And inevitability is what people truly obey. When detachment becomes instinct, patience emerges as your next weapon. Most people see patience as passivity, as waiting without power. That misunderstanding ruins them. True patience is not stillness without intent. It is movement slowed to precision. It is time placed on your side while others exhaust themselves fighting it. The impatient man reveals everything: his desires, his fears, his limits. He moves too fast because he is afraid of losing control, and in that haste, he hands control away. The strategist understands something deeper. Time exposes weakness. The longer you wait, the more others speak. The more they speak, the more they reveal. And revelation is leverage. Think of a hunter, not chasing wildly through the forest, but standing perfectly still. The prey eventually moves. Curiosity replaces caution. Urgency replaces awareness. The hunter does not rush because he does not need to. The outcome is already decided by discipline, not speed. Most men are addicted to action. They mistake movement for progress and noise for power. They rush to respond, rush to prove, rush to strike. But power does not sprint. Power stalks. It watches patterns repeat. It waits for inevitability to form. And then it moves once clean, decisive, final. Patience turns time into a filter. Those who lack discipline eliminate themselves. They grow frustrated. They make impulsive decisions. They expose insecurity disguised as confidence. While they burn energy, you conserve it. While they reveal intent, you collect data. Time, when mastered, works against them and for you. This is not laziness. This is strategic restraint. There is a difference between inactivity and patience. Inactivity avoids responsibility. Patience embraces discomfort for long-term control. Waiting becomes training. Restraint becomes ritual. Every moment you do not react strengthens your position. Observe how desperation behaves. It demands immediate results. It forces premature action. It leaks through tone, posture, timing. People sense it instantly and exploit it instinctively. A patient man never appears desperate because he is not dependent on immediate outcomes. He knows that delay is not loss, it is pressure. Pressure changes behavior. When you do not move, others adjust around you. They second guess. They overcorrect, they escalate emotionally, and emotion, once again, becomes the fog that blinds them while your vision sharpens. This is where patience becomes frightening, not because you are slow, but because you are certain. You are not hesitating, you are choosing, and people can feel the difference, even if they cannot articulate it. Now the strategist's mind fully takes shape. The strategist's mind is not loud. It does not argue with reality. It maps it. Every thought passes through calculation. Every decision is weighed against consequence. Fairness is irrelevant. Emotion is acknowledged but not obeyed. The world is seen as it is an ecosystem of incentives, fears, self-interest, and deception. Most people observe with empathy first. The strategist observes with clarity first. Empathy can come later if it serves purpose. Human behavior becomes data. Ambition reveals pressure points. Ego exposes levers. Fear signals limits. Nothing is taken personally because everything is predictable when viewed without illusion. Picture a city seen from above. Streets, traffic, patterns, flows. The strategist does not stand in traffic arguing with cars. He studies the map. He reroutes. He controls intersections instead of chasing vehicles. That is the difference between reacting and orchestrating. Silence becomes essential here. Silence creates space. Space creates pressure. Pressure reveals truth. When you do not rush to fill gaps, others do it for you. When you do not speak, others project. And in their projection, they give themselves away. Attention is currency. Most people spend it impulsively. The strategist invests it. He does not chase validation. He accumulates leverage. He does not need constant wins. He needs control over rhythm. Sometimes losing visibly creates future advantage. Sometimes retreat becomes bait. Nothing is wasted if it serves the long game. This requires detachment from immediate gratification. You must think in layers. Today's concession may be tomorrow's trap. Today's silence may be tomorrow's authority. The strategist is never bored because observation is active. Every interaction is a study. Every response is optional. Betrayal no longer shocks you here. It informs you. Conflict does not anger you. It educates you. Loss does not break you. It refines strategy. Because once you accept that self-interest is constant, disappointment disappears. You stop expecting loyalty where leverage is absent. People are loyal to outcomes, not ideals. Control the outcome and loyalty follows. Demand loyalty and it evaporates. The strategist never asks for trust. He designs conditions where trust feels logical. This is psychological power, quiet, invisible, persistent. Appearing predictable to the masses while remaining unreadable to rivals. Saying less, seeing more. Acting last. At this level, power stops feeling aggressive. It feels structural, like gravity. Unseen, unquestioned, absolute. And once you operate from here, something irreversible happens. You stop chasing victory. You make victory inevitable. Now comes the final shift. The point where strategy stops being something you do and becomes something you are. This is ascension, not a reward, not a title, but a state. To become untouchable is to transcend reaction entirely. To rise above every tactic designed to provoke, rush, flatter, threaten, or derail you. At this level, nothing external has the authority to move you unless you allow it. Most people think strength is aggression. They think dominance is force. But force is crude. It creates resistance. It drains energy. The untouchable man does not fight every battle because he no longer needs to prove anything. His power is internalized. It radiates without effort. The untouchable mind is not numb. It is regulated. It feels fully, but it does not obey emotion blindly. Emotion becomes data, not direction. Anger signals threat. Pain signals misalignment. Fear signals information. None of them dictate action. They are processed, then put in their place. This is the moment where your sense of worth detaches completely from approval. Praise no longer inflates you. Criticism no longer wounds you. Success does not intoxicate you. Failure does not define you. You move according to purpose, not reaction. And that is when others lose their grip on you. Think of the ocean during a storm. Waves crash violently on the surface, but beneath them, the water is calm, vast, unmoved. Most people live at the surface, reacting to every wave. The untouchable man lives beneath it. He understands that chaos is temporary, but depth is permanent. At this level, you stop chasing opportunity. You manufacture it. You stop demanding loyalty. You inspire it through stability. You stop needing recognition. Your presence carries weight without announcement. People feel it before you speak. Your words become rare, and because they are rare, they land harder. Your actions become deliberate. And because they are deliberate, they echo longer. You do not explain yourself because explanation invites negotiation. You do not rush because rushing exposes urgency. You do not react because reaction surrenders control. Every attack becomes fuel. Every betrayal becomes instruction. Every loss becomes leverage. Not because you are indifferent, but because you are adaptive. You no longer resist the game. You understand it so completely that resistance is unnecessary. You bend it through composure. This is where control reaches its highest form. Control over self first. Because without that, control over others is illusion. The man who cannot regulate his impulses is ruled by them. The man who cannot regulate his attention is scattered. The man who cannot regulate his emotions is owned by anyone who can provoke him. You reverse this. You master your habits, your routines, your time, your focus. Discipline becomes automatic. Excellence becomes instinct. You do not rely on motivation because motivation is emotional. You rely on structure because structure obeys command. Here is the paradox. The more ordered your inner world becomes, the more unpredictable your external influence appears. People cannot read you because you are no longer reactive. They cannot bait you because you do not chase. They cannot rush you because you move on your own clock. Mystery returns, but this time it is not cultivated. It is natural. You no longer need to hide intentions because your intentions are not driven by ego. You no longer need to dominate conversations because silence already places you above them. You do not need to intimidate because your composure unsettles more than aggression ever could. At this stage, patience, detachment, perception, fear, and discipline fuse into one operating system. You see farther. You wait longer. You act cleaner. You outlast instead of overpowering. You do not destroy enemies. You let them expire through irrelevance. You begin to understand something most never do. Power is not about conquest. It is about endurance. The impulsive burn bright and disappear. The disciplined endure quietly and accumulate influence. Time works for you now because you no longer fight it. Every circumstance becomes neutral until you assign meaning to it. Chaos no longer threatens you. It informs you. Pressure no longer cracks you. It sharpens you. You are no longer trying to win arguments. You are shaping environments. This is the Machiavellian ascension, not cruelty, not ego, not domination for its own sake, but sovereignty. Self-command so complete that no one else can reach where you stand. You are calm, but not passive. Detached, but not indifferent. Patient, but not inactive. You are peace armored with reason. Fire contained within discipline. A mind that does not flinch. And here is the final truth. The world bends to those who do not bend to it. Not because they are loud, not because they demand, but because they are unmovable. When nothing external defines you, you define the environment. When nothing can provoke you, every provocation fails. When you no longer need to be seen, you become unforgettable. This is where strategy ends and identity begins. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to be inevitable.